He said, Donald Trump has finally crossed the line with his call to halt Muslim immigration. That's not who the GOP is as a party, and that's not conservatism. Trump warned that toppling Saddam Hussein and other secular leaders in the Middle East would destabilize the region and create power vacuums for radical Islamists to fill. What a reckless lack of judgment on Trump's part. Trump has also failed to embrace the conservative party policy of arming Islamic rebels in Syria in the hope of overthrowing the secular Assad government. What could possibly go wrong? I mean, the hundreds of thousands of displaced Syrian refugees and the millions of people posing as them are natural conservatives. Just invite them all in. Invade the Muslim world and invite the Muslim world. That's the conservative thing to do. Invade and invite. So, yeah, I just would like to get your thoughts on this, I would call it treachery, that we see in the neocons and to some degree in the libertarians as well.
Yes, well, that was my sarcastic indictment of the conservative movement. It has failed to conserve our freedoms and our identity as a people. And a similar critique could be lobbed at the libertarian movement. It has failed to advocate for our liberties, and it has instead embraced this sort of globalist vision of liberty only in the abstract. And libertarians and neocons are basically both globalists. The libertarians, at least, who advocate for open borders. The nation must be mindful of the threats that come from outside that nation, from populations who are hostile to liberty. And if you're going to insist on some kind of egalitarian open borders regime, then you are not doing your foremost job of defending your citizens from external threats to their liberties. I think the neocons have been sidelined to some extent, but they're not going away. They're going to grab onto somebody else next time, whether it's Rubio or somebody else of his ilk who's easily manipulated into the neocon position. I don't think that Trump, since he won the election, has been quite as strong in opposing the neocon agenda as Trump was before he won the election. He's invited in a lot of hawks into his administration. He's calling for a $54 billion increase in military spending. We need to put some pressure back on Trump. And we are in no immediate danger of being surpassed militarily by any other country, even if we left military spending exactly the same as it was during the Obama years. I mean, you could say it's been depleted in relation to GDP, but I mean, as with any government program, at the bare minimum, you should be asking, why is this spending necessary? And wanting to be number one or wanting to get back to where we were at some previous point by some arbitrary measure, it does not constitute a need. I don't think that the military conflicts, I mean, trying to defeat militarily an ideological movement known as radical Islam that spreads through non-military means. It literally cannot be defeated militarily when radical Islam is being spread through migration throughout Europe. I mean, it would make just as much sense to wage a multi-billion-dollar bombing campaign on Afghanistan after a terrorist attack as it would on London after some Muslim commits some atrocity. So this invade the world, invite the world mentality is extremely expensive to enforce and extremely ineffective and, in fact, counterproductive. I think a better overall strategy would be basically to, if not support the dictators who kept ISIS in check, and Saddam Hussein kept al-Qaeda in check while he was in power. He was more effective than anything the U.S. military did to prevent al-Qaeda from operating in Iraq. And so this insane policy that Bush, Clinton implemented to try to topple Gaddafi in Libya and Assad in Syria, we're basically toppling people who are more allies than enemies. Maybe they're bad people. Maybe they treat their people horribly. But they could have been, and in practice were, allies in the fight against organized terrorist groups and in the fight against the refugee crisis. I mean, it was Gaddafi who warned Europe that if he were overthrown from power, basically Europe would start turning black, because all the migrants from sub-Saharan Africa would no longer be contained in Libya. They would just go on through to Spain, to Italy, to Greece, and upward into Germany and Sweden, where they can get the best welfare benefits. And the population projections for Africa are absolutely staggering. The population will triple before the end of the century. And they're going to be mostly people who are just barely subsisting in desperate poverty, subject to all kinds of political persecutions and wanting to flee into Europe for various and obvious reasons. And if Europe does not summon the fortitude to start saying no categorically, then it will just be a constant flood of boat people onto Europe's shores that will forever change the character of Europe and ultimately into a third world hellhole. What we're really up against is an egalitarian moral dogma that has hijacked and crippled our natural defenses. When Swedes see refugees attacking ambulances and setting cars ablaze, they internalize this and say, well, there must be something wrong with us that we haven't integrated these people. So no matter how much stark reality these Swedes are exposed to, those who still continue to internalize through some guilt complex, then nothing will change in terms of Swedes waking up. So I've been to Sweden. I've been to Malmo, which is one of the hardest hit areas in terms of refugee resettlement. I've been to Stockholm. And there's still a lot there that is not gone to hell and that is worth preserving. But I see these Swedes just kind of walking around, going about their business. It's almost if they can't see or they don't want to see the ultimate consequences of what they're doing. Like they just need to be woken up somehow. But, I don't know exactly if there's one thing that can be done to get through to them. I just continue to wake people up who are able to be woken.